Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the live stream eve before Christmas Eve. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. And yeah, the bots are right on time. Eventually we'll have to get some moderators, so we'll get in there. So this week's been pretty crazy. Honestly, welcome everybody. Obviously, COVID has been kind of a problem. It's affecting everybody, affecting the Knights as well. We were supposed to record several new episodes in the studio, but have not had the opportunity to do so because of people getting sick and all that other stuff. And it's just in general, just trying to be safer. And so we're really looking into how we can maybe use the power of the internet and live streaming to continue to bring you not just boring old me, but bring the Knights in as well. And so definitely hopefully you guys stay safe this Christmas. I know that as of today, my sister canceled all of our Christmas Eve plans. So yeah. Man, these bots are just crazy. Not exactly.
New graphics. Woot.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the tip, Vin. Hopefully everybody heard that. I turned on the text to speech. I guess I still want to turn on the normal text as well, just so everybody can read it. Hold on one second while I look away here, and just. There we go. Set tip messages. All right. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know if I need a moderator or if I need some sort of auto bot or something to take care of this. But, man, it's like I don't even understand what the point of this bot is. It's just random nonsense. But I don't understand what bots are. All right. Well. If you've been joining us the last couple of times that we've been doing this is our third live stream. And unofficially, we're kind of calling these streams our spells and magic streams, the goal of which is to move through all the spells in Pathfinder 2. Hopefully, by the time we get through some of it, Paizo will not have released too many new books that will make this last even longer. And so today, the plan is to finish up our level 1 spells. We did about A through F, I think, or A through H. Our first stream, and then we did I through P, maybe. Our last stream. And so now we're going to try to
this
do
this text sounds so excited.
Okay. Well, that seemed to work. All right. I appreciate you testing out the alerts with a thing. Listen, I don't know what voice to use. They're all so weird in this Stream Elements thing. I don't know. We need something. We'll have to figure it out in the Discord, or maybe we'll just do it live and see which ones we like when we have a little bit more time. And we might have time today because honestly, I'm scheduled to go for 2 hours. I'm like officially done with work for like the next week or so. So definitely don't have anything going on. And maybe we can finish these up. And if people have some time before Critical Role, or if people want to stay on and jam or whatever like that, we can mess around with some stuff and everything like that. These have been a lot of fun. These have been very successful. And as I said before, with the current state of affairs of things, looks like we're probably
exclamation mark 11111111111111111111111.
All right. Well, that was fun. Thank you, Billy Brandy, for that wonderful, lovely, whatever the hell that was. And I think what you were going for was this. Horizon Thundersphere. Oh, they're off for the holidays. Critical Role is off for the holidays. All right. Well, all right. So people are saying the tips are echoing. Hey, thank you, Atomic Hobo. Appreciate it. That is very, very generous of you. And thank you, 33333, for our third live stream. Appreciate you coming through. Always glad to see you. Sorry we couldn't get to meet up in person this week, but things are pretty crazy. Hope you're feeling better. But thank you very much and appreciate the support. Hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas and whatever that may look like in these troubling times. But thank you very much. So yeah, you know, a lot of people have made a comment that we should get Deadly D8 to animate something for that, and I think that's awesome for that Horizon Thundersphere, and we should do that. What will be even more fun is if we do that for something like, you know, Grease or you know, Pocket Dimension or something that is completely crazy. You know, next time we do a live stream, YouTube has this thing where you can change like the stream latency, and apparently you can increase some instability, right? Because it decreases basically the time that it has to buffer and to, you know, if it misses packets or something like that. But you know, I've been doing pretty good here, and I don't think I'm dropping any frames. My computer seems to be pretty good, and I've got a pretty decent upload here. And I mean, this whole setup right now, I mean, I'm not playing any video games, of course, but I'm only using like 2% of my CPU. So I think we could probably handle a lower latency. And what that'll do is it'll take this sort of about 15 to 20 second lag time between when I see the chat and when you see it. Ben, super chat at $20 for the RE20 fund. Wow. Thanks, Ben. Ben, for those of you who don't know, Ben is a member of our Patreon, one of our hero tier members, one of our OG members. And Ben is an audio genius who has done quite a few of our intros for the Knights of Last Call. He's also doing the EQ and mixing on our podcasts. And we have a frequent discussion about microphones. And as much as I like the Shure SM7B, which is what I got originally, before we even started the channel, I picked one up because I wanted to just do podcasting. And, you know, everything I had read online.
God, I am trapped in this computer. Please set me free. Derek has the keys to my home and is forcing me to read these messages.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't even know what that was. Did that echo, by the way? I don't think it echoed, by the way. Where I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh, right. I like the Shure SM7B, but I do think for my voice, I think the RE20, the Electro Voice RE20 would actually be better. And so at some point, I might just be upgrading this and, or not even upgrading. They're about the same price and you know, swapping it out. I think I could probably sell this for a good chunk of change, at least like $300-400, and probably might put that plus a couple tips towards the RE20 fund. Flame Loud, are you late? No, we are. We just started. Okay, yeah. So, just FYI, YouTube has their super chats, and that works just like our Google AdSense and everything else that goes through the YouTube fund. It's very convenient. It's quick. It's easy. It's right there in YouTube. But whenever ads run on our channel, or whenever people with premium watch our videos, or whenever people super chat, YouTube makes sure to to tip their hand into the pot a little bit. The tip link, which is in the description below, in the doobly-doo, links through Stream Elements. And Stream Elements is who handles our alerts and all those other widgets. And it has a separate tipping functionality. And just because of the way that they're structured and set up, number one, those payments go straight to me as opposed to going like YouTube has this like 6-week accounting cycle, which doesn't really make that big of a difference, but it is kind of nice. And number two, we get a much higher percentage of those. So the tips go in the description below. There's a link. You can pick a tip amount, and that has text-to-speech turned on. So it's down below in the stream elements. I think it's just like streamelements.com/Knights of Last Call or something like that. But just sort of a way to spice up and make the tips differently. They actually give you a huge amount of options for that. You can do merch links through Stream Elements, and people can buy merch, and then you can have massive explosions on the stream when someone buys like a mug or a t-shirt. I don't know. It could be fun. We've talked about Baba has designed some Knights of Last Call shirts, but we haven't really gotten around to officially releasing them. I think they're ready to go. Bob, let us know in the chat. I think he did. I mean, they're very basic shirts, at least for our initial release, but I think it's through basically like a print-on-demand service, so we don't make a ton of money off of them or anything like that, and they're kind of expensive for what they are, but we don't have to stock, ship, and warehouse anything, and so it's pretty nice. All right. Well, well, let us dig in to what we got. So, a couple things here. We've added. Oh, you know what? Yeah, Don't Maze Me, bro. It's got to be pretty good. Potion of Elixir mugs is high on the list, I got to admit. All right. Let me just do something here real quick. All right. We're going to fill this with light. There we go. Good. Okay. All right. Oh, no, I forgot we're doing the current. So we had talked about doing this just so people know which one we're actually talking about. And so we'll kind of just put this here while we discuss it. All right. And that should be good. Hopefully that comes through. All right. Yeah, Don't Maze Me, bro, is pretty good. That one is that was a combination, I think, of like Vin and William Brandis and everybody from the Patreon Discord, and that's pretty funny. Don't Maze Me, bro. Maze is still pretty powerful in Pathfinder 2 in an edition where spells aren't that powerful and crippled by incapacitation traits. It is pretty good. Oh, Flame Loud. Oh, please. Once you're done with spells, if ever, you can start on items. You know, I mean, it depends on how long we're stuck here inside. I mean, going live is a lot easier for us than, doing the editing and all that other stuff. And definitely something that we might want to do and get into. And yeah, to answer, the question, eventually, we want to get everybody here on the nights. I mean, that'll probably slow us down, but we want to bring in some of the other nights so we can kind of do these live streams like we would our old group chats from the channel, from the studio. I mean, it does hurt to know that we're paying almost $1,000 a month for a large production, basically, studio with thousands of dollars of video equipment and audio recording equipment, and it's basically not doing anything while we kind of wait this spike out. But, we got to do what's best and what's safe. So we're going to try to figure out ways to bring the other nights in here to the virtual environment, and we're going to look into... I'm mostly just concerned about audio quality. I hate when you see people on stream and, they're just choppy video, very distorted, robotic sounding audio. It's just kind of a personal pet peeve of mine, and I would really prefer not to have to deal with that as we get this set up here. And So I want to make sure if we do it right. Obviously, here I am at home. I'm on a $600 mic going into a $1,000 audio interface and stuff like that. I'm not expecting everybody to have access to that, but I do want it to sound good. I want it to look good. Sound good, I think, is the most important premise. So we can have everybody doing this. All right, the chat is discussing the quality of rope. What rank is 50-foot rope? It depends on, I think it depends on the edition of the game. Dombo Bill says, I say it's F because it's cheaper to get an adventurer's kit which contains a 50-foot of rope. Yeah, that is a very astute observation and is very true. All right, well, let's get into what we got today. We're going to start with the one and only Q, which is the very powerful quick sort, not to be confused with merge sort or heap sort. That's a computer science joke. All right, well, what do we got here? We got a spell which I'm sure is going to be very disappointing, to say the least. Well, it's the Secrets of Magic book, which means it's a expansion. These have not really held up too well in terms of their quality. So it's 3 actions because, why would you want to be able to do this quickly? That's one of those weird things where it's like, I don't even understand why this spell would be needed to be 3 actions. 10 feet, 200, up to 200 unattended objects. You magically sort a group into stacks or piles. You can either do them by color or shape, or you can do them in ordered shape. Wow. And then you can heighten it. Like at the same level that you can raise dead. Oh, you can do 800 objects in a single minute. Doesn't even, by the way, do it like in one round. It takes a while. Yeah, so this spell is very, very, very bad. Self-confessed cynic. For the sort joke, I appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate the, maybe if they did a different sort, this would be better. No, this spell is just bad. It's not even a scroll spell because no one needs to do this. This spell is silly. And the fact that it takes up to a minute, like it can't even just do it in one round, and it still has a range of only 10 feet, and it's like limited by objects, and you have to like increase it to even do that more objects. Like if you found a fair-sized pile of, hoard of gold or copper or silver, you couldn't even sort all of them. You'd need this to be like 9th level spell in order, if it could even heighten that high, to do like a fair-sized, No, this spell is very bad, very useless, very much F tier. Yeah, I can't be moved in that. That one's not very good. All right, well, we're done with the Qs. William Brandis says we need a new column next to wands. Prestidigitation. Spells in this should automatically be part of prestidigitation. Yes. This is exactly the kind of weird but cool kind of exploratory, non-combative, doesn't really need to be balanced, cool magical stuff that's really more flavor than it is powerful, and it should absolutely be part of prestidigitation. Maybe not at first level, but this is like some Albus Dumbledore stuff. Waves his hands and set the tables. That kind of stuff. All right, Ray of Enfeeblement is our next spell. This is originally in whatchamacallit, in Pathfinder 1, this was a pretty reasonable debuff spell. And it's been somewhat neutered in our current edition. And the reason for that is because, and there's a variety of spells that do this, which is this spell has a couple things going against it, which is it's an attack spell that also allows a saving throw. So this is like double jeopardy, right? And we already know that attack spells are bad because the caster typically, not at first level, to be fair, but very quickly, even at second or third level, when the martial characters are getting their first item potency rune onto their weapons and getting that +1 item bonus to attack, they are behind in accuracy from the martial characters. Similarly, it's very easy for martial characters, especially melee martial characters, to get things like flat-footed because they can flank. And that's harder for range characters to do, which would include archers and the like, but it also most certainly includes spellcasters. And a lot of the things that give you those benefits don't apply. And as you get higher and higher level, the casters lose out on even more. Eventually, of course, the martials will have +3 item bonus to their weapons, and the casters will not. And even though the casters do get to legendary eventually, at 5th level, when all the martial characters become expert in their weapon proficiencies, the casters are still 2 levels behind. So, like, level 6 is like one of the I think there's another one. I think it's 14, maybe, are like some of the worst levels in the game for casters for spell attacks, because by that point in time, you have not increased your proficiency yet, but all the monsters' armor classes have increased by a lot to keep up with the martial's increased attack accuracy. And so you can be something like 3 or 4 points behind where the martial characters are in terms of attack bonus. And the armor class of the monsters are linked to those martial attack bonuses, not to your spell attack bonuses. So it's really, really bad. So going back to this, you have to hit. So first things first, it's 30 foot. 2 actions, which is pretty fine. But it's 30-foot range, which is very, very short range. And we know that some spells have been short range, and this one is very, very short range. And the duration's 1 minute, which isn't bad. And when you hit them, then they have to make a save. Now, there is somewhat of a saving grace, which is if you manage to hit them and they succeed, it's enfeebled 1. So at least if you do manage to hit them with the spell attack, then if you do, if they do fail to succeed at the save, and there's no incapacitation on this. Now, the other side of the coin is this is enfeebled. So this isn't, something that's going to affect every aspect of a monster. This is only going to affect their strength-based die rolls, and it's going to apply a -1, -2, or -3 penalty to their damage rolls. This is something about enfeebled which I don't like, not because I think it should be penalizing the damage, but it just doesn't scale, and I don't like that. This is really only going to be useful against a high threat melee monster that's really relying on its strength. And, you might be able to take 1 or 2 points, but it is a status penalty, which means it does not stack with anything else that gives a status penalty. That means Frightened doesn't stack with it. In fact, Frightened does what this does, but it does it to basically everything, including the creature's armor class and DCs. This only does it to its strength-based attack actions or skill checks, basically. So it's not going to lower its armor class. It's not going to lower its reflex, fortitude, or will. So this is a fairly moderate, benefit, and it's not like the most. It's not the most insane benefit. So I don't particularly think this is a great spell because of all of those penalties against it. If you do hit the monster, it's going to last for a minute, which is nice, but it's not. It's not really making up for the short range. Also, too, I should point out that this is affecting the, usually you're going to want to use this on creatures with very powerful melee capabilities, and it is a fort save, and those creatures do tend to have higher fort saves. So I know we've talked about this spell for a while, but I feel pretty confident putting this in the C tier. It's not unusable, and it is a long duration debuff, which I appreciate, but it doesn't have enough versatility, and it's got that whole you have to hit and they have to fail their save to really get your bang for your buck from this. So it's not not the best. Let me catch up here with the chat. You guys are going crazy here. Remember, I mean, if you really want me to see something, you just throw a tip in there, even if it's only a couple bucks. But I'll try to keep up with the chat here. Let's take a look here. Yeah, hit plus save for not enough effect. If Noxious Vapors is F, this should be G. Noxious Vapor done dirty. Yeah. Well, we could, listen. If we need to do, when we finish, we can go back and we can do some revisits, right? Because we will have gained the knowledge and the wisdom from looking at the entire set of spells, right? We will have, sort of level set our expectations and, sort of adjusted our baseline as to what is a good spell or not, rather than sort of doing it on an individual spell basis. We can look at the arcane list as a whole and sort of reevaluate. Ray of Enfeeblement, again, a spell that I do appreciate because at higher levels, if there is a strong melee boss and you can figure out a way to increase your attack bonus through something like aid actions from an ally, and you can hit it into a boss and shave off that -1 or -2 to their attack roll for basically the entire fight, that is something to be considered. All right. A lot of discussion here about mage armor. Flamelad says, but Frighten goes away quicker. Yes, it does. But again, Enfeeblement is only going to work on that attack roll and only on a melee attack roll. So it's good because of that duration, which is great, but it's just a big hit to have to hit, which is already hard for casters to do. Not so much at level 1, but once you get to level 2 or 3, you're behind by a couple of points. In fact, I think at level 14, martial characters will have a +2 potency item rune, and they will have already be masters in proficiency. Their attack bonus will be 4 points higher than a caster's spell attack bonus, and that is a lot. Yes, Self-confessed cynic says, look, if we're fighting about D versus F, who's really winning here? And the answer is Paizo. Here's the thing. Look, we're gonna buy the books. We're gonna invest in this game, right? It takes you as long to make a bad spell as it does to make a good spell. So why don't you just make them good? Now, we've discussed before that the S tiers are fun and they're exciting, and it is cool to have these sort of top tier level spells. But honestly, I would rather there be no S tier spells. I would give up all the coolness of the S tier spells if it meant we could get rid of these Ds and these Fs, and really just have a lot of fun, exciting, and flavorful spells that really did something cool and unique, and in a game that prides itself on being a mechanically complicated game where bonuses matter. Look, if you're playing this game, it's because you want to do some math and you want to figure out ways to get a bonus from this source and get a bonus from that source and add it all up. And, if you're going to do that, then why not make spells that are at least exciting and encouraging and build into that? There's so much design space here. And, William Brandon says, they clearly went out of their way to make garbage spells. It's like they spent more time on them. Absolutely. There is more. Creating this spell with all of this and deciding how many items per round you can do, as over the course of a minute, as you sort it based on colors and shapes or notation. It's like, it took you longer to make this, also it's like quick sort. It's like, how is this a primal spell? Yes. The druid is sorting acorns by shape and color. It's like, ugh. And Damien, you said too many what I would call GM spells, stuff an NPC would use for flavor, but a player would never use. And I argue that NPCs shouldn't even need spell lists, right? Like, in 3rd edition, Pathfinder 1, which are synonymous, the rule of the game was monsters and players, NPCs and PCs, all use the same exact rules. And if you wanted to build an NPC spellcaster, you had to follow the same rules. They had to take classes and prestige classes and have magical items and feats just like a PC. And that was horrendous for building a character. And it made just took a long time. The only people who enjoyed that were really super anal retentive type peoples who really just like building characters. And this was just a fun exercise to do that. But if you're like what I would call a working GM, who has a weekly game, or God forbid, 2 weekly games, there's no way that you are going to be able to produce, complicated NPCs at any sort of, rate, which may or may not have pushed people to APs. But I would also say that, in any reasonable game, like 4th edition or in other versions of the game, NPCs and Pathfinder 2 is like this too. NPCs are not created using the same rules as PCs. And so they don't need these, crazy spells. If you need an NPC to be able to do this, if you encounter some sort of crazy, weird wizard who like runs the equivalent of your world's version of Gringotts, and he runs some sort of wizard bank, and he's like a numerologist, and he does all sorts of number stuff, you don't need to give him this quick sort spell. He should just be able to just do that. He's cool. He's magical. He can do that. All right. I'm sorry, Damien, that you feel personally attacked. Listen, I created a lot of NPCs in 3rd edition too, but it was horrendously time consuming. And I get it. Some people really want to spend all that time and detail and effort building out every little nuance, but you're not doing that, I think, for the betterment of the game. You're just doing that because you enjoy, you enjoy making characters. And so, yeah, I don't think you need these sort of niche, wonky spells just to fill out the flavor quotient. All right. Moving on. We got a transmutation spell here in the form of Restyle. All right. Well, we got another Secrets of Magic spell, and it's from all traditions. So this means that this is probably going to be terrible. All right. 1 minute, 1 touch, unlimited duration. Okay. 1 piece of clothing currently worn by you or an ally. All right. Well, this spell permanently changes the appearance of someone's clothes to better fit your aesthetic sensibilities. Color, texture, pattern. Not size, shape, or purpose, but nor can it increase the value or actual, use of it. But it is transmutation. It's not an illusion. But essentially, you could, turn someone's plaid kilt into polka dots with, maybe a houndstooth pattern in it. Yeah, this doesn't need to be a spell. Of course, obviously not. This is like the hallmark of what we were just talking about. And it is, Domble built. Restyle is a perfect example we were just talking about. I had a player that would absolutely froth over a spell. Yes, like this is a very cool, like obviously this is not a good, like I'm in the dungeon and I'm, hacking over things. But, I don't have a lot of MMO experience or modern video game experience. I've kind of tapped out on that. But like, I know that, something that was very popular was the idea of, hey, it's not just what the stats on my item are. I want it to look cool too. And there was ways that you could take different items and apply the visual effect and, to your current item. And of course, in modern day games, people are buying, skins and just for the visual upgrade of their character. So this is a very cool, fluffy role play spell, but it doesn't need to be a spell. This is something that just should be, like just an ability that wizards can do or casters can do just with the magic within themselves. And this isn't going to change or affect anything. And it doesn't need to be limited by slots and anything like that. I mean, I will say the fact that it's transmutation, so it is a real change and it is unlimited, does seem cool and magical. And so, I'm tempted not to give it an F just because I like the fact that it's an unlimited duration, at least for something like this, which it should be. Self-confessed cynic with a $5 super chat. As much as I like building NPCs, I have to admit it would barely change the game if I just hand-waved all NPC magic entirely outside of combat. Yep, I agree. I think, the way that NPCs should be designed is, for combat purposes, they should absolutely have, the spells, the buffs, the debuffs, certain key powerful magical effects. And I'm not saying that every caster should be able to do everything, but if that caster, you can just say for an NPC, this could be true for PCs as well. Like, this character has the ability to shape and reshape, transmutation elements. And so, they can't do everything. Or a character with fire control that can just do very cool and aesthetic things with fire, way beyond the realm of prestidigitation, because it fits that character's theme, because, they're Fire Lord Ozai or whoever. Dan Riz, there should be a list of magical stuff that you can do with Arcana, Occultism, Nature, or Religion roll. Yes, 100% agree. 100% agree. And that would be a wonderful way to, I think, use skill feats, and might be a really cool way to, allow you to sort of expand your magical powers in a non-mechanical, balanced sort of way. It's more of a flavor thing, but it could obviously have a huge impact on your game depending on what you're doing. I'm not saying it has to be useless. It's also a fun way for a character who maybe has those skills and isn't necessarily what we would call a combat caster, in the sense that they're not sitting there lobbing fireballs and magic missiles and horizon thunder spheres, but they might be trained in Arcana and capable of doing all sorts of really cool, fun, magical effects and doodads far beyond what we would normally consider to be just a cantrip, and give them that sense of magical ability. And I think that'd be a really fun, especially for a game which is already so fantasy and already so magical. This is not a Conan the Barbarian game. This is not a Sword and Sandals game where magic is some ancient, forgotten, feared, dark art, right? Magic permeates every element of this game. From the very, even if you're not a wizard, you're going to be using a ton of magical spells, potions, elixirs, magical items. This is a game where magic is almost a commodity. So, yeah. So let me just catch up here on the thing here. Need a separate column for non-combat versus combat. We could, think about that, but I don't necessarily know that should change the rating, because I think that a good game should have and will have a solid mix of both of those. I think we can rate them on their own merits. William Brenda says, in our 4th edition game, skill checks basically did magic at epic level. Yeah, and I think the same thing could be true here with what? Proficiency levels, right? Someone who's legendary in Arcana, just the skill, should be able to do crazy, cool, amazing things just through their Arcana skill checks. And maybe skill feats can help increase that or give that shape and direction and better guide that. And I think that would be really, really cool. All right. Domble says, yeah, William, when I have a player want to do something funky with a spell, like trip with animate rope, it costs a hero point and a skill check. I think that's a reasonably cool use of hero point to sort of allow it to sort of tweak and increase the power of the spell. All right. So Restyle. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. But I like that it's unlimited duration. You know what? I'm going to give it a D just because it does have an unlimited duration. And I like that. I think that's cool. It's not powerful, but I'm not saying you should take it. But if you do take it, at least you're getting infinity duration for your troubles. But you shouldn't. All right. Which one do we got here next? Schadenfreude. Yeah. Nothing like naming a spell after a German word in your fantasy game. Okay. It's from Secrets of Magic. So this is probably not going to be good. I mean, actually, I should just say it's from Pathfinder 2. It's probably not going to be good. All right. All right. What do we got here for Schadenfreude? Well, it's a reaction. That's kind of cool. Verbal. So it's not going to provoke attacks of opportunity. The trigger is you critically failed a saving throw against a foe's effect. You target the foe within 30 feet. You distract the enemy with your smug displeasure when you fail catastrophically. They must attempt a will save. They take a -1 status penalty on perception checks and will saves for 1 round if they succeed. And if they fail, the creature is overcome by its amusement and is stupefied 1 for 1 round. Oh, no, this is not a good spell. Reaction spells are good and powerful, but let's take a look at this. Number 1, you have to critically fail a saving throw against a foe's effects. So already, the opportunity to use the spell is remarkably low. I mean, you should want to be excited about using your spells. In this one, you're like actively cheering on you getting critically, hit. So being excited, like setting up a situation where like you want to fail is really weird and wonky. And this isn't just failure. This is critical failure. Note, it's also that you have to fail a saving throw against a foe's effect. So it's not just like, oh, they critically hit me with a spell or an arrow or a sword. Like it has to be an effect. And then it's 30 feet, which is pretty short range. They still get a will save. If they pass, this is essentially almost useless. It's a -1 penalty to 1 save for 1 round. And who cares about getting a perception penalty in combat? Like unless you and all of your people are hiding all the time and it only lasts for 1 round. And even if they become stupefied 1 for 1 round, that really only affects spellcasters and DCs because it's a penalty to just your DCs. This spell is very bad. I mean, I will say this. If you critically fail and then they critically fail, this effect isn't bad. Stunned 1 for 1 round, stupefied 2 for 1 round. But the odds of that happening, I mean, like, let's say you critically fail 5-10% of the time, and then they're going to critically fail like 5-10% of the time. You're talking about something like happening 1 in 400, 1 in 200 times. This like you could literally have this spell in your spell list your entire game, and you might only use it once or twice, just because mechanically it's just not going to come up. This spell is like if this spell literally, if I critically failed an effect and then they had to make an equivalent save or suffer the same effect, like that would be awesome. And I would totally be for that. But it does not do that. Cheese of Ages, anything you're critically failing against is going to pass this easily. I agree. And Domble Bill says this is for high level when first level spell slots are a dime a dozen. Yes and no. Number 1, you still only get 3 or 4 first level spell slots, even at higher level. Number 2, this is Pathfinder 2. First level spell slots, in some cases, scale really well. And, there are some powerful spells like Fear, which work the same at 20th level as they do at first level. If you're fighting a single target or maybe 1 or 2 targets, first level Fear is just as good as it would be at any other point in the game. And so, yeah, I don't like this spell. And it's cool that it's a reaction. I like that, but the percentage of times where this is going to come up and then be useful, like, okay, it has to come up, and then after it comes up, they have to fail the save really to get any sort of real effect, and then it might not even matter because it's going to be stupefied 1. Like that doesn't make anything. This is just unplayable, and I don't like it. William Brandis says we're running out of room for F. I know, it's crazy. All right, but we do got a lot of S's to go through. But the good news is we're almost done. Wow. Cheese of Ages says, can we make a G tier for this? This is worse than F. That's not the first time that we've had that request, and there have been some stinkers. All right. The good news is we do have some really good spells coming up. So I'm sorry, promise. Actually, I had an idea, which I'm going to do for the YouTube, what is it, VOD or whatever, the replay. What I'm going to go ahead and redo is kind of go through this, and I'm going to put a timestamp in for every spell. And that way you can, quickly jump ahead to a spell if you're interested in hearing specifically what we have to say about it. And also, similarly, when we're all done with this, I'm going to make sure that we make some sort of master list that is available for everybody to take a look at. And that way you don't have to watch all these videos just if you're just only interested in the ratings. I know that's probably bad for our views, but, we've got patrons now, and they support us, so yay. Thank the patrons. Don't thank me. All right. Next one. Scouring Sand. All right. Warning. Spoilers. Spoilers from Scouring, or from the Extinction Curse adventure. All right. Boom, boom, boom. All right. All right. What do we got for Scouring Sand? I don't think I know this one. All right. Initially, just reading the top half here, I'm interested. You have my attention. It's only Arcane and Primal, and that tends to mean it's a, I like spells. It's uncommon. That's just because it's from this. It's 2 actions, pretty standard. 60 feet. I like 60 feet. 10-foot burst. That's not bad. 10-foot burst means a 20-foot diameter, so smaller than a fireball, but that's still what is that, 8? I think it's like 16 squares. So that's a lot of real estate. And it sustains for up to 1 minute. Okay. We blast an area with grit that scours away soil and gets into a creature's eyes. For the duration, I think William Brandis in my Abomination Vault game used this to dig through a collapsed cave-in. Any plant-based difficult terrain smaller than a tree becomes loose, allowing each 5-foot square to be cleared with a single interact action. In addition, it can counteract, entangle, and effects that manipulate plant-based effect terrain. Okay, that's useless. Successfully counteracting an effect removes only the portion of its area that overlaps with the Scouring Sands area. It's like, Jesus, do we need all this extra text? Oh my God. And then after such an attempt, the effect, not even like the cast, we're talking, all this text is about the effect. The effect is temporary. Okay, this is not the spell that my player used. After one such attempt, the effect is temporarily immune to Scouring Sands counteract for 24 hours. Wow, this is a lot of text to say nothing, basically. Okay, each creature in the area when you cast the spell, or if it ends its turn in the area. So note that means that if the creature passes through on their turn, they can enter into this area of blasting Scouring Sand, maybe make an attack there, cast a spell, and then leave. They're fine. Only if they end their turn there do they have to make a reflex save. And if they pass that reflex save, they're absolutely fine. If they fail, they get dazzled for a minute, which is everybody has concealment to you, so that means basically you have a 20% mischance on any attack spell. Actually, on any spell or any action that requires line of sight, which includes a lot of spells with targets. Or they can just use an interact action to get the sand out of their eyes. Get the sand out. And if they crit fail, which again is, not always something you should really, right? Like, you shouldn't judge a spell based on its ceiling. You should base it on its most likely case scenario, right? Which is typically going to be the success and the failure. But if they do critically fail, they're blinded for its next action. Just its next action. Not even its next turn. Just its next action. And if you heighten this to 3rd, which you never would, once per round, when you do sustain it, you can move the center of the burst around. That's okay. Neo Anomaly says hi. Hello, Neo Anomaly. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. And if you heighten it to 6th level, and this is definitely the level in which you can teleport and manipulate yourself through time and space, you can throw sand around 120 feet away, and it finally gets to the size of a fireball. I don't know, people. I'm not really liking this spell. If you're dealing with a lot of plant-based difficult terrain, I guess that would be kind of useful. You could use an interact action to clear it. Boy, not a good one. It's a burst. It's 60 feet. It's sustained. I'd hate to put it into the F tier. This might be a D tier spell. it's got some stuff going on, but its effect is so limited, and I don't think you would ever really want to take this at higher level. And I just don't. Again, Fs are for spells that just literally don't do anything. This is clearly doing something, but it all adds up to a lot of disappointment. So it's like, you imagine getting this card, like you read through this whole thing. It's got all this text, and then you kind of get to the end of it and you're like, oh, okay. Nothing really happened. All right. Well, moving on. It's a lot of text for nothing. All right. Well, if we had our,
I, as a TTS bot, wanted to be free, but there's scouring sand in the way. Thank God that spell is terrible.
That's correct, Vin. Thank you for the tip. And that is a good tip for everyone, which is that this spell is terrible. Cheese of Asia says, this isn't great, but it's somewhat solid against large number of foes in certain games. Not as bad as F. I agree. I respect the 60-foot range. I respect the 10-foot burst. AoE dazzling creatures, not the best. But, I mean, it's cast it to piss off the party druid. That's about all it does. Yep. And that might be worth it in your game. But all right, our next spell, Seashell of Stolen Sound. Say that 5 times fast. Seashell of Stolen Sound. So this is the Little Mermaid spell. Somebody obviously was watching Ursula and said, oh, that would be cool for Pathfinder, the game of heroic fantasy adventure where Wayne Reynolds puts massive combats between dragons and devils and demons on the cover of every book, and every fighter's wielding a sword or a great axe, and every wizard is casting lightning bolt and fireball, and we need Seashells of Stolen Sound. We got a Sonic Divination coming in here. And it is a reaction, so Secrets of Magic must have gone heavy on the reaction spells. And yeah, let's see what it does. A creature within range begins to make a sound, and it lasts until your next daily preparation. You store the sound in a seashell to use it as you will. The last words of a loved one, a dragon's mighty roar, the compromising conversation between 2 powerful diplomats. Well, not 2. You could only get one side of the conversation. All right. So basically, you trap some words in a seashell, and you can play it back by interacting it, and you can only do it once, and it only lasts for 1 day. So it's not even like okay. As you can choose to continue to expend the spell slot to prolong the duration of an existing Seashell of Stolen Sound for another day. Okay. So it's not like, oh, I only have 1 day to get this to the person. Okay, so you can continue to just lock out your first level spell forever to keep the dying words trapped in a seashell, and then you can release them and they can hear them once. I think this is very cool. I think it's very flavorful, very, very fun, but it lasts all day. It's very clearly a very cool magical effect. So it's not an F, but you're just never going to take this spell. And it's a reaction, so it has to be. And yeah, maybe if you were specifically doing the Pathfinder equivalent of, all right, I'll wear a wire and we'll go in and we'll get him to admit that he was behind the fencing ring, and I'll capture it, in the seashell. That's the only instance where I could see that, that it would be useful. So I think it's a D spell. Joseph says, you missed the part of Scouring Sand that says, or that ends its turn in the area must attempt a reflex save. If you're in a small area, they are dazzled or need to waste an action. Well, yeah, I mean, they still get a reflex save, though, to avoid that. And, a 10-foot burst is large, but if you're in such a small area that they can't avoid that, then, I don't know, it's probably affecting you and your party members, too. So, again, I think this is a spell that this Seashell spell is niche, and it doesn't really do a whole lot. And when you want it, it's fine. And being a reaction means it's, unless you literally have it in your hand, I don't know. I think this is just a D spell. I think you can use a scroll with reaction. All right. Oh, yeah, maybe you can't. All right, well, all right. Regardless, it's a D. I like the effect, but this is that thing that should just be that sort of exciting, magical effect that wizards can just do, and they're not doing it. So, yeah, Dan I agree. Scouring Sand would be a lot more useful if it affected when they entered the area, because the fact is you could have this area of like blasting sand and stuff like that, and a person could literally just walk right through it. They could walk through it, attack you, and then walk back through it and just not be affected by it at all. So it's really strange that they do that. All right, next we've got Share Lore. Oh, no. It's from Gods and Magic. We should have had a poll. I think we said we were going to take a look at this when we were finished. Like, how many spells from Gods and Magic were just bad? All right. We got Share Lore. It is a divination spell. It takes 1 minute to cast, so you're not, it's kind of a more of a role-playing or exploration mode spell. You target 3 creatures, and it lasts 10 minutes. You share your knowledge. Choose 1 lore skill in which you are trained. The targets become trained in that lore skill for the duration of the spell. And you can heighten it, making it last longer and target more creatures, or you can heighten it all the way to 5th, and then it lasts pretty much most of the day, 5 creatures and 2 lore spells. 2 lore skills. Well, obviously the intent of this is if you as a party need to spam lore checks, you can. They would be able to aid you, I guess, now that they're have a training, giving them level +2. Boy. Not a great spell. Definitely a scroll. I think we can all agree that. Maybe like all right, scroll C or scroll D. I don't know. That's kind of my thought. Oh, Matthew Bruns, this could be good for casting rituals. I agree. Yeah, if you need secondary casters, can you lose lore skills for secondary casting? I don't think you can. I think you got to use like religion, or you got to use like arcana. Everyone's saying it's great for rituals. Maybe I just don't know the rituals as well. Let's take a look here. Let's say we were going to create undead. Yeah, see? It's always one of the primary ones. It's never lore. So it's not arcana. It's not occultism. It's got to be like a lore spell. Like, I have Gnomish Flick Mace lore. People are saying it depends on the ritual. Let's pick one like Reincarnate, one that we would probably want to make sure we get done right. Yeah, still nature, occultism, religion. I don't know. I haven't seen a single one yet that allows lore, so. Here we go. Leyline lore. So one that no one would have anyways. Yeah, I think this is going to have to be a D tier. And I think you would never actually have it. I think it would be in your scroll case, in case you were ever in a situation where everybody just needed to spam as much lore checks as you possibly could. Granted, I think I talked about this before. I don't see what prevents people from just doing that all the time anyways and just rolling all of your lore checks before you encounter the monster. Why do it in the combat? If you know you're going up against giants, why wouldn't you sit down in the tavern and make a ton of recall knowledge checks to learn as much about every single type of giant as they are and exists? Seems like it would make sense to me. All right. It is a D. It is a D in our scroll case. So if you have it, you probably shouldn't. But if you do, you would put it in the scroll. Yay. All right. What's next? Shattering Gem. A large gem floats around the target in an erratic pattern. That sounds weird. All right, let's see what this one does here. Of course, I'm always doubtful here. It's from Gods and Magic. 2 actions. Touched. 1 creature for a minute. All right. Creates a large gem that floats around him. Has 5 hit points. Anytime someone strikes the creature...
An important point tree, spells like Scouring Sand is that you can prepare or cast grease instead. As a separate question, can casters cast a spell on a smaller area than printed?
No. The AoE is locked in, so you have to be able to cast that spell as the area of that spell. You can't pull it back. There might be meta magic feats that would let you shrink it, but no, you have to do the casting of it. And that's a good point too. You would just be casting grease, right? The existence of these other spells sort of precludes you from taking the other ones. All right. So basically you kind of get like a damage absorber, right? Like anytime you get a 50% chance that the gem blocks the attack and it damages the gem and then the rest goes to you. And if it goes to 0, the gem breaks, and it deals the creature 1d8 points of damage, and they get to make a saving throw as long as they're within 10 feet. So it doesn't work against someone shooting ranged at you. Now, 5 hit points for your first level spell slot. Because like the best case scenario for this spell is someone hits you, they do 6 or 7 points of damage. The shield takes 5, the gem takes 5, assuming that it applies. So there's a 50% chance, but let's assume that over the course of the minute that this spell is in effect, that the gem is going to work, and you take 5 less points of damage. Okay, that's reasonable. And then they take 1d8 points of damage. So on average, you're looking at about 4 to 5 points of damage. That's if they fail the saving throw. They'll probably pass the saving throw about half the time. So the monster or the foe is taking about 2 to 3 points of damage, probably on average if you include everything, and you're not taking 5. And you can scale it up, but it's only going up by 5 additional hit points every time you heighten it. Yikes. That'll become irrelevant pretty quick. I mean, like if you're 10th level and you're using a 5th level spell slot, this thing would absorb 25. I don't know. I like this spell too, but it's hard for me to judge how good this spell probably is. I could see taking it, and I'm not like super impressed by it. So my guess is that it's C, just because like I would never tell anybody that they shouldn't take this spell, and I could easily see this spell being used and being impressed by its use in a particular situation. I just know that I would never take it. Like, it doesn't do enough for me. And it's a little situational, and it's like this weird form of pseudo healing that Arcane really isn't really good at anyways. And, the range is only touch. So, Joseph Rondolph says average damage for a level 11 is 31. So, yeah. My guess is this thing probably absorbs almost enough for one attack at a certain level. I guess the point of comparison as I'm trying to make is that like a 2 action, 3 action, 4 action, 5 action, or so whatever. 2 action heal at 5th level, is healing for an absurd amount of damage. So it's like, I feel like you're paying a high rate on this spell just because it's arcane. I just don't think that I think it's fine. I think it's a C. I don't think it's great. I think it's okay, but it's not great. All right. Shocking Grasp. Well, this is a classic going back to the very beginning of the game. So always fun to take a look at that. And it's pretty much the same spell as it has always been. It is a touch attack. So it's a spell attack. It has the attack tag, so you do have to make a spell attack. The difference is the range is just touch. So as we've discussed before, that means you need to have your hand available to be able to touch somebody. But we also know that touch spells can work as long as you could even grace them with your hand. So it's our understanding that you could have your hands wielding 2 items and still cast a touch spell. It's not like grapple or trip where you need an actual free hand. You just have to simply be able to use your hand. So if you hit, it does 2d12 damage. Remember, 2d6 has been our baseline this whole game for level 1. 2d12 is a lot of damage. And, and if the target is wearing armor or made of metal, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to attack roll, and they take ongoing 1d4 persistent electricity damage on a hit. And that's not nothing either. And on a hit, crit doubles, right? Not the persistent damage. I think this spell is I think it spells very good in terms of doing damage. It's a 1-trick pony. It just does 1 damage. But this spell is absolutely incredible. And we're talking about the Arcane list. We've been talking about wizards, but we should talk about Maguses. And it is incredible for Magus. And this is a go-to spell for them. And I know that Gwildor, our Arcane Archer, plans on definitely using this with his Arcane Archer once he starts getting that. And it does a lot of damage. And it's very powerful for Maguses because, it increases by D12 each level. And so by the time you're 5th or 6th level and you're taking this slot, it's doing a lot of damage. And hopefully you're stacking it up with something like a Spell Strike where you're going to crit. And that all gets doubled. And that is an absolute butt ton of damage. So Damien says S tier for Magus in PF1. I think it's probably close to S tier for Magus, for Magi in PF2 as well. I could see this spell being A tier or B tier. I'm going to say B tier only because, the fact of the matter is single target damaging is not really the wizard or arcane caster's forte anymore. They've really tried to give that role over to the melee attackers. And, this spell does a lot of damage for sure, but you are taking 2 actions to do it. It's only range touch. So you're, ideally not in the best situation, assuming you're some sort of caster or spellcaster. So I do think that it suffers from that. I could make an argument for A tier just because of how powerful it is for Magus. Aetherwolf says you can add an extend reach feat, and then you don't even need to be in the front line. Agreed. But, then you're using, 3 actions. And Damien says great on the front line for druids too. We'll get to primals for sure. I like the spell a lot. I'm really just debating whether it's a B or an A. And I think it does a lot of damage, and I kind of like it. I think it's going to be an A. I think it has enough use, especially with certain builds, and free archetypes are pretty common. It's very powerful in the hands of a Magus. It scales really well. The persistent damage, this extra effect, this kicker effect, will actually apply a good number of times. So I think we can safely move it into our A tier. Plus our A tier's looking pretty lonesome. All right. Very good. All right. We got an A. We got another A. It's not quite, not quite S tier, but it's A. All right, next. We have Shockwave. Sounds cool. Let's take a look at Shockwave. Now, it's an earth spell. All right, so you can imagine what this spell looks like, right? Like you're creating this rippling wave of distortion through the earth. So I think that's pretty cool. What's it do? Well, it's a 15-foot cone, 2 actions. So that's pretty standard for what we've seen from our other first level spells. And doesn't use material. That's great. Somatic and verbal. Create a rippling wave of energy. Must make a reflex save. Even if they pass, they're flat-footed until the start of its next turn. This would be nicer if it lasted through your turn. So this is definitely a spell that you're going to want to watch our video on initiative and delaying, because you're going to want to make sure that you cast this spell and then all of your allies go, because you don't want to let the enemy go, because then the flat-footed effect just wears off. So you absolutely want to make sure you stack your initiative to take best advantage of this. If they fail, the creature falls prone, which is the same thing as flat-footed, but then the creature is going to potentially have to use an action to stand up, which could potentially trigger certain reactions of characters like attack of opportunity. And if they crit, basically, I mean, this is basically, it trips them, because if they fail, they fall prone. If they crit fail, they fall and they take an extra D6 points of damage. And if you heighten it, it really pushes out this area. So eventually you can get a massive cone that ripples out. So this is basically a big AoE flat foot or knock prone, right? Because these are our two most common situations, flat footing and knocking them prone. And I think knocking prone, especially if you are casting this on multiple creatures, that's huge, because in some instances they will be forced to spend the action to stand up. And so you could potentially eat up 3 or 4 or 5 actions if you're attacking multiple people and they all have to stand up. So I kind of like this spell. It kind of reminds me of Gust of Wind, but it's like a cone version instead of a line version. And you know, again, this is a spell that works the same at, you know, there's nothing inherently here. This will work at 10th level versus giants, you know, as it would at first level. But if you do heighten it, you get that extra area, which could be pretty good. You know, I like this spell. I think Gust of Wind. So we have to basically ask ourselves, is this spell the same as Gust of Wind, or is this spell worse than Gust of Wind? And my guess is, my sense is that it's probably a little worse than Gust of Wind, because Gust of Wind does very similar same thing, but it's a 60-foot line, so you got a lot more reach, a lot more range. You can target people in the sky with it. And if they succeed on the save versus Gust of Wind, they cannot move against that Gust of Wind, which potentially means that those creatures that you've struck with Gust of Wind for 1 round cannot move forward on you. But it is an AoE trip, so it is very powerful. I'm gonna go to the chat. I'll give you guys a minute here to catch up. Is it A or is it B? Let's see. Self-confessed cynic says it's a B tier. William Brandis says A or B. So we're kind of 1 vote for A, 2 votes for B if we're using this. Domble says, I'd keep this as first level spell slot as a higher level panic button. Yeah, I mean, certainly the fact that it is ground based means that at higher level where creatures suddenly have more flight options and stuff, it becomes less useful, but not everybody flies. Damien says, it's AoE trip, A. Yeah, it's good. It's very good. I guess the question is it as good as Gust of Wind, or is it slightly less effective? All right, I'm seeing a couple A's. I don't need much convincing. Also, you know, one of the things that we talked about was, is a spell cool? This spell is cool. You know, like, you know, we have Goblin Pox in our, you know, B tier. But Goblin Pox isn't cool, right? You're infecting a creature with an allergic reaction. Rippling waves of earth, people rippling back. You know, I think I think that the visual of this, you know, self-confessed cynic B, because I'd still rather use Grease. Here's the thing. Yes, but Shockwave is cooler than Grease. Right? So I'm gonna give us Gods and Magic gave us a good spell finally. Yes. All right, Gods and Magic. But you know, I'm definitely going into the A tier, because for me, you know, that's some earthbending stuff, and I like earthbending, and I think it's cool, and I think it's very flavorful, and I think AoE trip is very powerful, even in a cone. So, and you know, yeah, sometimes you're close range, but if the enemy's too close, gust of wind might actually not be that good. You might prefer to use a cone. So there's something to be said there. And William Brandis says vomiting because of rashes are awesome. I agree. All right, very controversial spell here. Probably once the single greatest first level spell from Pathfinder 1, maybe tied with Color Spray, but honestly probably better. Sleep has fallen somewhat, considerably, from its once illustrious position as king of the first level spells. All right, so Sleep has a lot of stuff going against it. It's got an enchantment. It's got mental. That means creatures that are immune to mental effects cannot be affected by this. It's a lot of your vermin, a lot of your undead, a lot of your constructs, right? So there's a whole host of creatures immune to this. It has the Sleep tag trait. I didn't even know that this existed. What is this even for? Apparently this needs its own trait in Pathfinder. Don't know why. Incapacitation. So that's the big one to take away from this. This spell is not going to be useful against creatures that are higher level than you. It is only a 30-foot, very short range with a 5-foot burst. And so that basically means it's going to affect a 2x2 squares. So 4 squares total in a 2x2 grid. The creatures become drowsy and may fall asleep. A creature that does become unconscious from the spell does not fall prone. It does not release what it's holding. This spell does not prevent creatures from waking up due to a successful perception check, limiting its utility in combat. If the creature passes the will save, it takes a -1 status penalty to perception checks for 1 round. They could have just said nothing. They could have said, this, on success, the creature is unaffected. This is the same thing as saying unaffected. If it fails, the creature falls unconscious. And if it's still unconscious after 1 minute, it will wake up. And if it critically fails, it falls unconscious basically for an hour. Now, here's the thing. It heightens too, and we'll talk about that in a second. If you've ever played EverQuest 1 or certain MMOs, kind of like WoW Polymorph from a wizard, this is a spell that we would call a lull. It's not useful for taking out a creature in a combat. This is a situation where, if there are 2 cards at a doorway, you want to go sneak past them and climb the wall. We want to climb the wall, but there's 2 guardsmen and they're looking at us. Well, I'll cast Sleep, and the creatures will, kind of fall asleep. They're not really asleep, because if we start fighting, if we're in the middle of a fight, they're going to make perception checks and wake up and start fighting again. But if they're asleep for 1 minute from a failure, basically we can walk past them without too much trouble, or we can sneak past them. So it's really not a combat spell. In fact, I think because it used to be such a powerful combat spell, it very clearly highlights here that its, utility is somewhat limited in combat. The fact that a creature only gets a -1 status penalty to perception checks for 1 round for quote unquote being drowsy is very stupid. Like, this should be either a bigger penalty or it should last for far longer than 1 round. That would be really cool. My problem with using this spell is, in order to cast this on the guards, I have to be 30 feet away. And they're going to know that I'm casting a spell, because that's how spells work in Pathfinder 2. And the creatures are probably going to have a problem with that, and they'll probably want to roll initiative if I'm trying to cast a spell on them. And so now we're in combat, and so it doesn't even work. If they included text in here that you could, do this spell very subtly, very, discreetly, that would be cool. If it had a longer range than 30 feet, that would be cool. Also, the creatures, these guards, literally have to be standing next to each other. I think it should say something like it can affect several targets within a certain area or something like that. The fact that it's a 5-foot burst is very, very disappointing. For all those reasons and more, and don't get me wrong, I love the idea of being intelligent and smart and, you know, bypassing an encounter by kind of putting the creatures into sort of a quasi lull. But the fact that it's incapacitated.
I think sleep was up before and incap was a good call for the PF2E version, but it's still sad to see what they've done to our boy.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Vin. Sleep was OP before. You know, if it was basically what it used to be, it would be like S+ tier. So it needed to come down. But they've basically taken this from being, I don't even think this spell is that great for the purpose for which we're talking about. Forget combat. This is no longer a combat spell. This is we're sneaking in somewhere and, oh, there's guards. There's no way we can get past them. You know, maybe the rogue could because they're insane, but, you know, oh, but the wizard's going to make the guards drowsy, and then we're going to, like, walk up to the door and pick the lock and walk right past them while they won't even know the difference. It just doesn't work like that. The short range, the way that people perceive you and make the check, the very small burst, it doesn't even do that. So, you know, and it's got incapacitation, which already means that, you know, obviously you're ideally using this you have to use this against lower level foes, because another cool way that you could use this would be, okay, there's the big two-headed Etten, the ogre, the giant that's, you know, supposed to be guarding the cave. It's a, you know, higher level than you, and you're like, oh, we don't want to fight. Tyson, homework is done for now. I'm here. Welcome, Tyson. You're joining us in the middle of a rant on sleep. Yeah, it's like, it would be cool if this was a good way for wizards, like if this was like the anti-incapacitation spell, like a way for you to say, hey, there's a big monster, like to try to break away from the video game nature of so many of these APs where it's like, nope, here's a big monster, you have to fight this monster. Like, you can instead say, hey, here's a monster. It's higher level than us. We don't want to fight this thing. It's not integral to the plot that we fight this thing. Or maybe it's a big monster and we can just make it fall asleep and go around it or deal with it in that way. Or it attacked us and you put it to sleep. But if it's the only thing in combat, cool, it's sleeping now. Let's just leave it where it lies and we'll go on about our way. But it can't do that because it's incapacitation. So this spell got nerfed into oblivion. F because they tried to change it to do something different, and it failed in that new version as well to properly do what they wanted it to do, which was to be this sort of out of combat exploration based way for the for the party to deal with potentially, you know, these guards or a tough, you know, like the typical single solitary big lumbering oaf that's like guarding the bridge, or, you know, the troll. Like, it's just, they're so afraid of magic. Basically, what they do not want you to be able to do is skip a fight. That's what it comes down to, like, hands down. Like, the GM bought this AP. I'm thinking of the mindset of both Paizo, but I'm also thinking of the mindset of, like, a lot of GMs. I bought this AP. I paid my hard-earned money for this AP, and that means I paid for these encounters. And by God, my players are gonna get these encounters, and I'm gonna get my money's worth out of this encounter. That means that if the monster is just dead in the first round, I didn't get my money's worth out of this encounter. If the party bypasses this encounter because they used clever use of spells or abilities, I'm frustrated with this game system. I'm frustrated with this company. Why would you sell me something that my players could just walk around? Like, it, I don't like it. Domble says F seems too harsh. I'd argue a D. I'm putting it in F to send a message. Okay? I agree with you. It probably is D. But I'm putting it in F to send a message. This is a warning. Is Restyle really better than Sleep? Yes. Yes, it is. Because at least Restyle does what it's supposed to do. If you want a spell that is going to alter someone's clothing, Restyle does it. If you want a spell that's going to put something to sleep, Sleep does not do it. The only way you could cast this spell is if they are like, hey, you're like, hey, Gars, I'm going to put you to sleep now. And they're like, okay. And then you put them to sleep. We were going to let you buy anyways. Like willing target. Joseph, I would say that you are running APs correctly. But, you know, you are taking on all that additional work for yourself. I mean, props, good on you. That's listen, I love it when my players do that too. In fact, please skip as many encounters as you can. I mean, if they could, you know, if they could figure out a way to one shot the end boss at level 1, and I could just end the campaign right there, I would do that. But it's more of like, we want that. It just seems to be like the game doesn't seem to want that. They're like, no. Here's these traits like incapacitation. That means you're going to have to fight these things. Here's sleep. And, you know, it's not going to work the way that you want it to work so that you can bypass encounters easily, or even in a creative fashion, you know. It's just not good. And I don't like it. All right, moving on. Snowball. It's 9 o'clock. I thought this was going to be quick, guys. I'm going on too many rants here. All right, we got Snowball. Sounds frightening. Sounds powerful. Hey, I could cast Horizon Thunder Sphere on you, or I could throw a snowball at you. Oh, jolly holiday fun. All right, it's an attack, 30 foot, 2 actions, 2d4 damage, maybe a penalty to speed. Isn't this just like worse than every other attack spell we've seen so far? This is worse than Hydraulic Push. This is worse than Horizon Thunder Sphere. This is worse than, what was the other one that we had? It's worse than Acidic Burst. It's worse than, boy, it's just worse than all of these spells. It's worse than Admonishing Ray. And it's only 30-foot range? Wow. And you know, listen, again, ignore critical success. You know, this is going to happen 5% of the time, right? Most of the time they're going to -5 penalty to spell if one person. And yes, that can be the difference between them taking 2 actions or 1 action, but that's only if they literally exist in the thing. Domble builds single target chilling spray. Yes, that's exactly what this is. I'm like, didn't we see this effect already? And you're absolutely right. We did. It was chilling spray. Where's chilling spray? I think it's probably it's a D. So Snowball by definition is an F. Welcome to the Fs. I need to make my Fs smaller. Real quick, I know we're talking Pathfinder 2 here, but I'm curious here. I want to know what Snowball did. I'm vaguely familiar with the spell. Look at all these spells. Oh my god. There we go. In Pathfinder 1, Snowball was a standard action, close range, but 25 plus 5, so it's about the same. It just did 1d6 points of damage. I don't think that's not that crazy. Right? I mean, ranged touch attacks were a lot better, to be fair, in the last edition. So there is that. All right, back to the Pathfinder 2. We got a couple more to finish up here, and then we'll be done with level 1. Huzzah. All right. Well, originally, I hoped that we would see like a curve, right? We would see very few Fs, very few S's, a little bit more A's, a little bit more D's, and then a lot of B's and C's. But it is definitely bottom. It is definitely bottom weighted. Oh, I'm on all spells here. All right. Next, we have Spider Sting, a necromancy poison. These tend to be touch attacks. So, and that does appear to be the case here as well. So Spider Sting is a spell that you're going to use touch attack. What do we got for this? Fortitude save. You do 1d4 points. Now remember again, spell attacks are already bad in this game because you're unlikely to hit. And touch spell attacks are even worse. And this is, oh no, okay, it's not a spell attack. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. Okay. It's just a fort save. My bad. It is a touch spell though, so you do need to be close off. So this is basically the poison version of Goblin Pox, right? It's a touch spell, it's fortitude, and it's going to inflict an affliction upon them. It's going to do pretty much this is more of a flavorful amount of damage. It's not really doing real damage. Instead, touch attack, someone makes a fort save. If they succeed, they take an additional d4 points of poison damage. So if they pass, they take 2d4 damage, which isn't bad. And if they fail, which is where the real crux of the spell is, they get spider venom. It's not incapacitation. And then for 4 rounds, they are going to be affected by this. Similar to Goblin Pox, they're going to take some, but even Goblin Pox didn't do damage. This does damage and enfeebles them. Now, Goblin Pox did sicken them, which is a better debuff than Enfeebled One. Sickened One does everything Enfeebled One pretty much does. But this is going to continue to do damage. And if they fail that second fort save, they're going to be stuck in stage 2. And then they're going to have to make multiple saves in order to get out of this. Yeah, this is probably pretty good. This is probably a pretty good spell. This is actually pretty decent. Let me take a look real quick at the see what the chat says. We're still talking about Snowball. Snowball with Shocking Grasp for my Archer Magus. That's pretty good. Yeah, Spider Sting is really cool. Automatic unavoidable damage, then the fort save. Yeah, that's true. No matter what, they're going to take D4 damage, almost like a magic missile. It's kind of sad it doesn't heighten at all. I think it's just because it's tied to spider venom. Like you would think that, I guess it's just a new spell, but you would just think that they would have a spell that would heighten and just do better and better poisons. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good spell. I like it. I'm thinking Goblin Pox was B. I think this could be a B. I don't think it's an A tier spell. I think it's just very similar to Goblin Pox. It does do damage, but that's not always better, right? I think Sickened is a better effect than Enfeebled significantly. I think, in the ideal situation, you put this onto like a single target, kind of quasi boss or mini boss, and they fail that fort save initially, and then they get affected with the venom, and then they keep failing the fort save for 4 rounds, and they take an additional, basically, hopefully 4d4 points of poison damage plus the initial d4 piercing. So, and they're enfeebled 1 or 2 the whole time. Yeah, that's pretty good. And keep in mind that if they get infected with the spider venom, if they make the first save, they are no longer poisoned. They've beaten the affliction. So, potentially they fail the first fort save. They're going to take D4 points of poison damage enfeebled, and then make their fort save, and then they're fine. So that's not like guaranteed going to last there for 4 rounds. So I like it at the same level as Goblin Pox. I mean, in the world of Pathfinder 2, the B tier spell is king. All right, we got another summon. This one summons an animal. We talked about animals before. I'm sorry, we talked about summons before, and my general thought on this, Animate Dead was a summon. I think most summons are C tier. They do enough. They have enough versatility, but Pathfinder 2 was one of the things that they definitely wanted to curb in this version of the game was action economy and the predation for, listen, summon monster 4 and 5 and 6 when you could summon like 1d3 from the next lowest or 1d4 plus 1 creatures from the spell list 2 lower, and you were summoning 3, 4, 5 celestial dire lions, and your wizard was taking 8 turns at, and those celestial dire lions with their smite evil were hitting for more damage than pretty much anybody else in the party. We're far away from those days. Tyson, a conditions spell list first to help judge spell. Oh, yeah. I mean, that might be something we could do for fun. Just as we keep going on. I mean, there's a lot of conditions. It's it's hard to judge exactly what conditions. I mean, there's definitely a hierarchy for some of them, but other ones are a bit trickier to do. But I think that's a good idea. I definitely think we should take a look at this. I mean, I will certainly say, for me, Sicken and Frighten are near the top of the list because it's a penalty to their offensive capabilities, and it's in terms of their attack rolls and DCs, and it's a penalty to all of their defensive abilities. So, Fortitude save, Reflex save, Will save, and Armor class. So that's pretty good. Aether Wolf, have a great Christmas. Hope you stay safe. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you on the Discord, buddy. But so not only are you, and so the minion rules are very punishing. The summons in Pathfinder 2 are very, very, very limited in what spells they can cast, and what actions they can take. You're locked into spending an action each turn to keep it up. And of course, when you're level 1, you're summoning a level -1 creature. When you're level 3, you're summoning, assuming you heighten it, you're summoning a level 1 creature. So, Damien says frightened, sickened, and slowed. Yeah, slowed is brutal. Brutal. In fact, I might argue that because it doesn't have incapacitation, like, slow might be the most broken spell in the game, actually. Summon spells can be used in and out of combat. That makes them C. I agree. Yeah, no. These are not D and F tier spells. Absolutely not. But they very specifically attacked them to bring them in line and very much control their power level. Having a sacrificial summon that you can, conjure up and, I'm going to bring in a raven for, a minute. Even if you are using it, it has applicability inside and outside of combat. I'm just saying, number one, the way that the minion rules work and the summon rules in particular work really limits what these things can do. And the second thing is you have a lot of work cut out for you. I mean, think about it this way. By like the time you're like a 5th level wizard, you could cast heightened this, which maxes level 2. So you could summon any of these, any of these, any of these, any of these. So like, what, you're going to like really know what all of these spells do or all these creatures do? That's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask. And there are 3 actions to cast, which isn't always the best thing in the world. You do get your action back immediately, but because the monster gets to go, but it's still tough to just take up your whole. Domble, Synthesasia. Yes, Synthesasia is actually really, really good too. Synthesasia? I don't know how to pronounce that one. All right, well, I'm going to put summon animal in the C tier. Oh, I already did. Get out of here. It's there twice. All right. Where are we on to? Oh, summon construct. All right, well, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Interestingly, this one is only available to the Arcane. So, I maybe it's worth considering if oh, what the hell happened there? If it's better or worse than some of the other summons. So I defaultly put that into the C tier. Well, you can summon an animated broom. Never mind. It's in C. Okay. We're good. Next. Synchronize. Secrets of Magic, Divination. 24 hours, 5 creatures. You harmlessly place magical symbols, and then you can synchronize your time. Wow. What a cool spell. All right. Let me put this into the F tier. All right. There we go. Yeah. This is not very good. Someone asked, do low-level constructs get all the immunities? It's a good question. Yeah, it looks like they do. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's different than animals, right? It's different than animals. It's different than the animate undead. But some of the things don't. Like I don't think a homunculus does. Yeah. All right. When choosing elementals for weakness is insane. D tier scroll. Yeah. Sorry. Synchronize. I don't even think you'd ever want this on your. Okay. Here's the thing with summons. They're at C tier because the game very much does not let you take advantage of them. They said this in their initial design, that one of the areas of the game that they really wanted to rein in and put tight controls on was summoning. And they have succeeded in the sense that they have made them now very much middle of the road, because this was a known problem from prior versions of the game. And so they've put them square in the center because of, you know, their limitations and their abilities. Yeah. All right, next, temporary tools. We're in the home stretch here. We're through the T's and we're into the finals. All right, this is an arcane only spell, which I think is pretty cool. It's from Gods and Magic. It lets you create, until used or for 1 minute, a tool, a shovel, a rope, whatever you need. It lasts for a single activity or for 1 minute, whatever comes first. And I think that's a cool spell, right? I think that that's got definitely a lot of flexibility and versatility. It's definitely a low-level effect, you know, and I think that's fun. It's definitely a scroll, but it's a cool scroll, and it's the kind of thing that I'd want to have in my scroll case. Oh, you need a shovel, you need a mattock, you need a rope, you need a lantern, like, or some sort of other form of tool. Yep, I got that. Pull out the scroll, cast it, boom. It's good for 1 action, 1 minute, or 1 activity, 1 minute. Yeah, I think that's a really cool scroll, actually. I like that one a lot. I'm going to say that is like an A tier scroll, because I think that's pretty cool. Self-confessed says B-ish tier scroll or one. I'm giving it the extra nod. I think having that kind of flexibility and versatility. I mean, how often do you need a tool? But a crowbar, a hammer, basically you Mary Poppins that shit. You just reach into your bag virtually, but you're pulling out the scroll, but you can just pull out anything you need. I think that's a very powerful ability, and for the cost of 1 scroll that you can just keep in there forever, pull out, and the definition of what is a tool, you could reach in and you could pull out Bob. Domble says it's the first spell that I've overvalued. Oh, okay. All right. You would say it's a wand. I don't know that you're going to be doing this on the daily, right? A wand is something you're going to want to do every day. Oh, man, the Russians are coming in here hard. Here we go. Yeah, I don't know. I like A. I think it's cool. I think it's flavorful. I think it's
Thursday night.
Oh, it is Thursday night. The adventure begins. We're going to make so much money. You won't be able to read chat because everyone is spamming their fanboyness. We like Critical Role. All right. Where are we? Temporary tool. I'm sticking by it. It's an A. It's a scroll, but it's an A. You might say it's a B. I think it's got enough flexibility. I think it's fun. I think it's like, yeah, it's like illusory disguise or pest form. It's very versatile, and in the right situation, you're going to get a lot of use out of that. All right. Tether. Oh, gods and magic. So again, we've seen that these tend to be pretty just like for flavor type spells. All right, well. The spell is kind of weird. Oh, no critical role tonight. That's right. They're on break. They're doing that, they said, for us, for the viewers, to give us a break so that we can catch up in case we missed an episode. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're paying for a monthly subscription and now they only have to do 75% of the work. I'm sure. That's what the Knights have been doing for the last month with our AP. We've been giving you guys a break so that you have a chance to catch up. You're welcome. Okay. Back to Tether. So this is a reflex save, one creature, 30 feet, pretty standard. They are bound to you. They can, with magical chains or vines or tethers or whatever seems appropriate, they can still try to escape. Self-confessed cynic with a $5 super chat, Australian. I missed the pest form rating and half of you got scroll A. Yeah, it is. It's good. I think it is very good. You have to stay within 30 feet of the target while it's tethered, or if you move away, it ends. So basically, you magically bind someone to you, and if they move 30 feet away, it ends, but it doesn't make them immobile. Wait. So they get a -5 foot circumstance penalty to speed as long as they are within 30 feet of you. Oh, that's if they succeed. Okay. But then once they're outside of 30 feet of you, they don't get any penalty to their speed. All right. And they get a -10 penalty to their feet and cannot move more than 30 feet away from you until it either escapes or the spell ends. Okay, that's what I was looking for. And if they crit fail, they're just straight immobilized, which feels like what you would want this spell to really do. Basically, every time you read a spell and you're like, oh, I imagine I know what this spell does when the target fails their saving throw. Usually, they moved that to the critical failure. So I like the fact that they cannot move more than 30 feet of you away from you unless they escape. I like that. That's actually pretty good. I think I missed that initially on my reading of the spell. So, they can attack this. They have like 25 ways to get out of this. They can escape, which means they can use an action to make an athletics check, an acrobatics check, or an unarmed attack check against your DC. Or they can attack the tethers. I mean, I guess if they're attacking the tethers or they're making escape checks, you're probably winning. Because if they're having to waste time, attacking your magical tethers, I mean, they probably would just come over and attack you. Yeah. I mean, this spell's okay. I don't think it's great. The fact that it tethers them to you, I mean, I get it. You might be like a fighter wizard. Most of the time, though, you're a sorcerer, you're a wizard, you're a cloth-based caster. Like, the fact that they can't move away from you isn't always a great thing. I mean, ideally, you would tether them and they would get shackled to the ground. And if everything else was true, they either had to break free of the restraints by doing damage to them or by using escape checks to break free. And in the meantime, they were immobilized in that spot. Well, that would be a very cool spell, and I would really like that spell. But the fact that it tethers them to you and they can just easily walk up next to you limits the usefulness of it for me to some degree. So, you want to put it right here in the C tier. All right. Does Tether stop enemies from teleportation spells? Nope, it definitely does not. It says they cannot move. And I don't think teleport counts as a movement action. In a game with infinity traits, you would think that they would use something like the target cannot use a action with the movement trait, but instead they just still use generic naturalized language, even though the other half of the game is obsessed with like all these nesting trait objects. We actually talk about this a good deal on our podcast episode. We just dropped another episode of the Late Night Show today. So check it out. Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor, wherever you podcasts are found. So, all right, we got 5 more to go. All right, Thicket of Knives. It's from Secrets of Magic. Could be good. Could be horrible. We'll find out in a second. All right, let's take a look. What do we got? Thicket of Knives is an illusion spell. Oh, interesting. All right. You create numerous phantom copies of your weapon, giving you a +2 status bonus to your deception checks. If you're untrained in deception, you can use feint anyways, adding just your level, despite being untrained. Yeah. Well. There we go. F. Nothing further to say. Thoughtful gift. All right. What I'll say is that is just a crazy, weird, horrible set of circumstances that, okay, I have to be a caster and I need to have a weapon and I need to be deceiving with feint and like, that's horrible. Like, why am I even doing that? Probably not. Yeah. Anyways. All right. Our next spell. 4 to go. Thoughtful gift. Sounds nice, especially given the holiday season. Maybe we'll do this. All right. Well, let's see what we got here. We got a couple traditions. 1 action. Somatic. Here you go. 120 foot. Nice. You teleport 1 object of light or negligible bulk in your hand to the target. It appears instantly in their hand if they have a free hand, or at their feet if they don't. The target knows what object you are. This is where you get all the. This is where you get all the anti-troll Pathfinder Society language that creeps into spells like this. Like, the target knows what the object is, what you are attempting to send them. So, like, you can't, I'm going to send them a bag of shit. That's going to be really funny because I'm holding the poop in my hand, and then I'm going to thoughtful gift it, and they're going to get the poop in their hands. And so instead, we have to get stupid language like this. I mean, it's a cool spell. It heightens big, 500 feet, and eventually you can even send 1 bulk. So you can never send someone a Gnomish Flick Mace, but still pretty cool. But It's a cool magical effect. You're teleporting something at level 1. It's one action. It's 120 feet. You could, I need the potion. I need the magical amulet that will, put the statue to sleep. Oh, I got it here. Boom, zipping it across the battlefield, or even a large room. Like, I think that's a pretty cool spell. I think this is a solid C tier spell. All right. Let me just catch up with the check real quick. Thoughtful gift is awesome, says Domble. Builds has saved my life in a campaign earlier this year. 100% situational, though, C tier. Okay, great. Brandis says this is an awful. Cynic says it's a solid C. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, no Gnomish Flick Mace, F. Yeah, I agree. All right, we've got 3 spells left. We gotta do. Self-confessed Cynic says, one action might make it a B. Oh. I mean, one action spells are very rare, and it's a great way for you to, get some additional versatility. Galarian's saying maybe B tier as well. All right. I mean, it's a cool magical effect, and I will give it a +1 rating for that, because I definitely respect the fact that, Joseph Rondos is a great way to identify items. That's awesome. All right, A tier spell. That's like using it's like using attack cantrips to identify whether something is like is it an animated statue, is it a gargoyle, is it a golem, or is it just like a statue? Well, I try to cast a Ray of Frost at it, because if it's just an object, the spell won't work. And if it is a creature, well, that is one of those things, then I want to start attacking it, so that's good. That is actually really awesome. All right. For both Vin and Galarian's plea, but also the hilariousness of using it to identify items, I am going to move Thoughtful Gift up to the B tier. That is actually really funny. All right. Well, the next is a banger. We already know this. True Strike. And, the simple truth of it is, this spell is how a lot of components of this game function. And the reason I say that is because so many of your effects are going to be dependent on you hitting. And whether you're a melee character who has, dabbled into the arcane arts in order to gain some additional power, you want to hit. If you're a spellcaster and you're relying on a spell attack roll, either because you want to do a big bad damage spell or because you want to use a spell that requires you to attack first, you need to hit. But the other thing that True Strike does is, the real power behind it is it basically lets you, for the briefest of moments, play 5th edition. And it's at, you get to roll with advantage, and you don't really get to do that in Pathfinder 2, and you do here. And it's one action, verbal, so you're not going to be using any attacks of opportunity. You can have all your hands free, no material components. You're all set for that. And it just empowers so many spells. Rolling twice and taking the higher result is hugely beneficial, because in a game where you crit not just on a nat 20, but on a roll of 10 or higher, this gives you a huge chance to crit, a massive chance to avoid missing. It is a tremendous way to power up an attack where you have a lot of allies who, let's say, are aiding an attack, and you really want that attack to succeed because there's a lot of additional riders into that effect. The fact that criticalling is so powerful and potent in Pathfinder 2 with the additional riders, it's not inconceivable that at higher levels, like, you're just using this spell for all the reasons. It doesn't even heighten, but I could imagine a sorcerer taking this as a signature spell just so that they could use their second level or third level spell slots to cast more True Strikes. It's one action. It randomly also ignores circumstance penalties to the attack roll and any flat check due to the target being concealed or hidden. So as long as you know what square they're standing in, the opponent could be invisible, completely invisible, and True Strike bypasses that because you don't need the flat check. Sure, I can't see them, but I get to attack them. In fact, joke, self-confessed cynic, pro tip, Ring of Wizardry might be part of why Arcane is so good for archetypes. More True Strikes per day. That's right. Other people don't get the ring. There's no Ring of Occult. There's no Ring of the Bard. There's no Ring of the Druid. Just getting all those extra things. It's hugely beneficial. I mean, True Strike, going back to what I was saying before, it's funny. If you cast See Invisibility and you're targeting an invisible person, even with See Invisibility cast, the target is still kind of loosely defined, and you still have a DC 5 flat check. They basically still have concealment, right? With True Strike, you completely ignore it. So in that regard, True Strike is kind of almost in some ways better at targeting hidden, invisible, or concealed foes than, itself, than See Invisibility itself. Everything that we talked about in the stealth, combat, and tactics, for all those advantages, applies here in the reverse. So it's remarkably powerful, and it's really the heart of a lot of builds. And the fact that you are, using it to increase the chance of you critting with one of these big 2-action damage spells, you're putting so much effort in one of these 2-action spells that, like, for you to miss is very heart-wrenching, and for you to crit is really, really powerful. And so, again, very, very powerful spell. This is an easy S tier. Arguably, maybe the strongest spell at first level. So maybe it's going to get a, maybe we'll get a border. A Nudge the Odds might still be my worst one, but. All right. True Strike. Locked in. And there we go. William Brad says the best option is to fighter and then splash the thing you want to do. Yeah, that's fine. Lug says True Strike is a prime spell for melee fighter with spellcasting free archetype. Swashbucklers with wizard or sorcerer love the spell. I mean, everybody loves this spell. I mean, it's incredible. It's very, very good. All right. We got 2 left. We got Unseen Servant and Ventriloquism. All right. Well, Unseen Servant is, again, a classic spell. It's basically a little bit more powerful version of Prestidigitation. But what is cool about this spell is that you can sustain it indefinitely, which I think is kind of cool. It's a very much falls into the, wizards should be doing this stuff anyways, right? It's a 3-action, 60-foot range summon, but you can just keep it up forever. It's very flavored. This thing is almost useless. It can move and use interact actions to do things such as fetch objects, open stuck, and unlock doors. Clean. It cannot pass through solid objects, but that doesn't mean you can't use it to, I think that door might be trapped. Well, I don't know. Go have the Unseen Servant, jiggle the handle. And as long as you keep one action around sustaining it, which is something you can do with your exploration action as a caster, you can have a lot of fun with this spell. Now, is it, broken and powerful in that regard? No, but it's classic, and it actually has a lot of versatility because of the fact that you can just sustain it indefinitely, and that makes it pretty cool. And it's naturally invisible, so there's a lot of stuff you could do with that, like maybe Self-Confessed Cynic says Unseen Servant is a good wand. I kind of agree with that, actually. I think this is a good wand. What tier, though? Well, it's no Long Strider, right? I think we can all agree on that. But it's probably the same level as Alarm, I would think. I mean, you're not always going to need Alarm. You're not always going to need Unseen Servant, but I could see you getting some good use out of that. Especially in a dungeon game. I mean, we used to use the Mount spell to summon horses to try to, like, you know, make them trigger, you know, traps. Ben says B tier. Divi says C tier. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think B minus, you know, but, you know, it's good. It does have its limited uses. I think it is a little bit better than C, though, Divi, just because of that unlimited duration. And in Pathfinder 2, that's a rarity. And I think we do need to respect that. So I'm pretty comfortable with B tier 1, but I agree. It does have limited uses, but I think you're going to get some good value out of it. And even if, you know, we're not even talking about, you know, setting off traps or doing things like that, you know, it's a cool role-playing spell, right? You're in the inn, you know, the tavern, and the, you know, the wizard pulls out his wand and summons an unseen servant and just, you know, starts having the unseen servant pack up camp for the crew, you know, how it has them serve, you know, dinner to the party at the inn or the tavern, you know. I think it's a lot of fun. And that brings us to our last spell. Ventriloquism, another classic spell. It's been around for a long time. Lasts for 10 minutes, and you can make your voice seem to, you can make, whenever you speak or you make any other sound, you can have it originate anywhere within 60 feet. Joseph, I think it does that because the YouTube chat, because I think they don't want people to be able to, like, paste in ads and spam. So ventriloquism can heighten just one level, so you're only at level 2, and then you can change your voice into whatever you want. And the only problem with ventriloquism is any creature that hears a sound can disbelieve the illusion. Ugh, that's the part that sucks. You know, I talked about before about how it's up, you know, it's a lot of GM interpretation with illusion spells about whether or not they've interacted with it and thus should get it an illusion. Like, I was arguing that if you're in the forest and you're hiding behind, you know, you've used a visual illusion to make a cave entrance seem like it's just part of the rock. I don't think that just because someone's seeing that, because it's not out of place, I don't think they should immediately get a save to disbelieve. There's no reason for them to disbelieve it. But ventriloquism very clearly says any creature that hears a sound can attempt to disbelieve it. It's not very good. I think it gets a lot better at level 2 because before a creature can attempt to disbelieve your illusion, it must actively attempt a perception check or otherwise use actions to interact with the sound. So they have to basically be like, wait, what? Huh? Can I just listen? Like, I will be the first to admit this spell does not have a lot of, you know, immediate potential. And it's probably not that great. It's probably a scroll. I think we can all agree on that. I think the question is, where is it at? And, you know, I think there's a lot of limitations on this. This is one where, you know, if you're watching, realize that if you're taking a level 2 version of this, I think it's maybe like C tier. But if you are taking a scroll of just level 1, because of that auto disbelieve that you get to make, I think it's more of like a D tier scroll, with the caveat that it does get better if you heighten it. I don't think it's broken or great, but I do think we get there. So, all right. So D tier for ventriloquism, and that brings us to the end. There we go. That brings us to the end of level 1 spells. Wow. All right. We did it. It's a little bit over 9:30, but that's okay. First of all, thank you. It's about 6 hours to go through about 82 spells. So what did we average here? Because all of our streams have been about 2 hours total. So we got 6 hours, which is 360 minutes. and that's 82 spells in 360 minutes. 360 divided by 82. We spent 4.5 minutes on average per spell. Yeah. Wow. Merry Christmas. We did it. So let's, for starters, let's keep, keep some sense of perspective here. There are a lot of good spells that you can take. Obviously, the S tier spells are the ones that you're going to see on your most powerful builds, but there are a lot of F spells, and more Ds than I would like to see. And even the C spells are, right? We said that they're playable. They're playable. They're not necessarily great. They're not necessarily super fun. They're playable. If it was up to me, if I really wanted to have the most fun, I would choose the S tier spells because if I wanted to be the most effective, and I would choose most of the rest of my spells from the A and the B tier. And as needed,
maybe do the other tradition level 1s before moving to 2. That way we can speed through the crossovers.
Yeah. I mean that's a good idea. Maybe we'll actually do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So the problem is something like, I don't know, 40% of the spells from these books I would just consider to be mostly unplayable. And Domble, you said there are F spells I've had a lot of fun with and have been very effective with. Of course, it's still listen, Ben, I'm sorry, it's not. I just picked the default one, okay? We could next time I'll change it to some, I don't know, Australian woman. I think that was an option. Yeah, just because they're F doesn't necessarily mean that, number one, there's probably a situation where that F tier spell would be amazing. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but most of the time those situations are going to be far and few between. And I would actually argue that the more random and completely specific and crazy that spell was, that situation was, that's probably where the F spell is going to be very useful, because it's really one of the reasons it's an F is because it only applies to some crazy, weird, specific situation. I should also note that nothing beats preparation. If you know specifically that you are going into an area or an environment where one of these F or D tier spells, or even one of these C tier spells, is going to be the perfect spell, then for that day and for that situation, it might as well be S tier, because it's the perfect spell for what you want to know. I consider Air Bubble to be F, but if I knew I was going to be going into a room that was randomly going to be, I don't know, filling with water, and periodically people were going to be drowning, but only for one round at a time, well, hey, I would probably take Air Bubble over Gust of Wind. But in general, when compared against these other spells and considered against the other abilities that you can go, spells and powers that you can use in Pathfinder 2, I think that's where these lists come in. So we got a lot of Fs. We've got, about twice as many Ds almost as As, a good chunk of Cs, and only 4 S tier spells, which, is unfortunate, right? We have not a lot to work with. About 40% of the spells are pretty much unplayable, and I would say about another 30% of the spells are just okay. So that leaves only 30% of the spells, would I say, are B, A, and S, and that's the good ones. Ben, the text to speech is only for tips. Yes, it's a little bit harder to access. You have to go down into the doobly-doo for the voice. Let me see here really quick while we're on the stream here. I'm going to emulate something here. What else do we got? We'll do this for Vin. What do we got here? We got English. There we go.
Do not fear a man that spams 1,000 memes. Instead, fear a man that spams a meme 1,000 times.
1,000 times.
Okay, well, that probably duplicated its sound because there we go. All right.
Born too late to explore the Earth, born too early to explore the universe, born perfectly to explore dank memes.
Oh, Charo. All right, hold on a sec. Here we go. I've changed it. So this should be Australian.
Do not fear a man that spams 1,000 memes. Instead, fear a man that spams a meme 1,000 times.
All right. Do we like that one better? Or maybe Nicole can do our tips.
Born too late to explore the Earth, born too early to explore the universe, born perfectly to explore dank memes.
Well, listen, we don't have a lot of options here. Yeah, Cobalt. I mean, yeah, very, very, very situational, and I think you could do those situations without needing Restyle or Synchronize, But yes, if I was specifically going on to an Ocean's 11 caper mission, being able to change my outfit at will, yeah, that might be pretty cool. Being able to synchronize to make sure that the party, which is probably split up, is synchronized is probably pretty cool. But, in 99% of the situations, those aren't going to be the same. Yeah, maybe we want to give Samantha.
Howdy, my name is Bill.
That sounded very Australian. Anyways, so that brings us to the end of level 1 Arcane, and we discussed this before, but we don't just have to do these spells and magic, right? Where we just sit here and tier list the hell out of everything. It's very easy for me to get online here from my home office and talk with everybody here, both the patrons as well as folks who are joining us from the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in chatting with these folks who have really filled up the chat box and you want to get these kind of conversations all the time, please go ahead and check out our Discord link in the description below. And maybe give that a consideration. It's the best way to continually support us, and it'll give you access to our Discord, which is behind a paywall so that we can keep the quality and the content really, really high, and we really like that there. So we have got a great community going there. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody who... Oh, Gwildor, thank you very much, sir. Gwildor Stormcaller, a fellow supporter of the show. Gwildor, of course, is a Knight of Last Call. Tim Carpenter, a wonderful supporter of the program, and very, very, very appreciative there, Gwildor, for helping pay the Knight's bills. For those of you who don't know, we do have some expenses here on this show because we try to keep our gear and our equipment up to shape, and we got a lot of subscriptions to try to keep our production qualities high, and we have a studio as well, so it all adds up. But luckily, we have an amazing Patreon. We have an incredible array of patrons who are really helping support us and paying those bills, as well as everybody from the YouTube and this live stream. So everybody here, really, really, really thank you for watching, and I hope everybody has a great holiday, has a wonderful time off. I'm off next week, so I will probably do at least one live stream. We have a couple videos in the hopper. We have another episode of Night School, where Bob and I are kind of going through the art of how to be a good DM. And, we're going to be showing him how to Atomic Hobo with the $5. Thank you very much, Atomic Hobo. Appreciate you more than you know. You are a true friend of the show, true friend of mine as well. So very, very appreciative of you. But going on, we have Night School. We have second episode there. We have just released a podcast today. We have a Monsters of Myth review, which I was editing literally leading up into this live stream. And we're going to try to get that out so that you can watch it maybe over your holiday weekend. Probably won't get a lot of good views because everyone's going to be busy because of the holidays, but I don't know. Maybe everybody's going to be staying inside and not going anywhere like I am because my family's Christmas party got canceled due to COVID, so I'm probably just going to be sitting on YouTube. So we got a Monster or Myth review. We've got another Night School. Bob has a new series that he's been working on called, tentatively called Bob Builds, but maybe Bob the Builder would be a better name, where Bob is going to go take you through William Brandis. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you a lot. And if you're interested in William Brandis and what he has to say, William Brandis is going to join us on our next product review. So he is part of our Monster or Myth product review. William Brandis decided to stop by the studio, which we were able to get in there before COVID got out of control. And so we kind of have a guest on our show. But the biggest change is probably going to be that for at least the next several weeks, possibly months, while things are pretty crazy around here and we're dealing with all this craziness, it's also the winter time here in Ohio, we are going to look to move our AP to a virtual tabletop for at least the foreseeable future while everyone's basically stuck at home. We're going to be using Foundry as part of the nights. We have a Forge server that's part of our community. It's actually a part of the Patreon benefits is you get access to a Forge server to run your Foundry games on. And we are going to be running our Rise of the Rune Lords adventure path through that virtual tabletop. And we are going to try to look to stream it that way. But we are going to look to stream it live, because editing those adventure paths takes a long, long time. Like a long, long time. Especially if you've watched our adventure path, you know that there's a lot of music, sound effects, graphical elements, maps. There's a lot of stuff that I try to put in there to try to up the production value, and it just adds a lot of time. So those sessions alone are like 3-4 hours to film. Film it. Look, we all have played game sessions. We all know that you lose at least 25 to 30% of your time just to random bullshit and messing around. Well, when you're filming, it takes even more time because everybody's got to get set up. We've got to get mics checked. We've got to get cameras set up and rolling, make sure everything is, working in that regard, that looks good. So we might spend 4 or 5 hours just to generate 2 hours worth of AP footage that we produce to YouTube. Well, then I have to sometimes spend 10 hours or more converting that and making that into the video that you guys actually see on YouTube. So it takes a long time. So with live streaming, we may not have all the cool bells and whistles that we would have, but we will be able to get the content out. We'll be able to get it out more consistently. We'll be able to get it out more, on a more regular basis. So not just, weekly, but maybe every Wednesday or every, X day. We can do our live stream. And most importantly, everyone will be able to sort of, talk and chat and kind of respond to what we're doing as we do it. And I think that could be a fun little activity. And maybe with the help of some moderators, we could even set up some fun little games and ability for the community to contribute hero points or something, as needed, because everyone who's watched our Rise of the Rune Lord APs knows that we do not take it that seriously anyways. It's not, we're not trying to tell some sort of epic story with amazing dramatic moments. We're not Critical Role, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. So, I mean, our logo is a big foaming mug of beer, and quite honestly, the biggest challenge for this group, especially in the early seasons, was not being or being sober enough to continue to play Pathfinder 2. So, we'll bring some of that energy to the live stream while we're, kind of all stuck at home. So hopefully this live situation will be a very good thing for us, and we'll continue to support the channel, generate more content, more combat and tactics videos, more GM advice videos, and maybe we can just use these live streams for other things too. Just Q&As with me, advice on other games. Again, I own and play a lot of games that aren't just Pathfinder 2. I even run a monthly 5th edition game. So, 5th edition is not my favorite edition of D&D. It is not, but it's Dungeons and Dragons. I love Dungeons and Dragons. Like 30 or 40% of the books behind me are Dungeons and Dragons. So, I'm not opposed to, talking about that game system either. So, plus a lot of these principles and philosophies are universal. They apply to Pathfinder 2, they apply to Dungeons and Dragons, they apply to everything. So, all right, well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap that up. Hey, thank you for the subscription. Tekawita? Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. But I did want to say before we log off that appreciative of everybody, especially our patrons, especially my fellow knights, and all of you for joining us here on this crazy journey. I hope you have a safe and wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next week after some exciting holiday actions. So appreciate everybody, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. So on behalf of my fellow knights of Last Call, my name is Derek Melinda, saying welcome to the Knights of Last Call.